We made it, didn't we? Episode 3, finally. So it's taken a little bit longer than I'd hoped to get this episode recorded. We're all busy, difficult sort of lining up times, really, and he's on another continent. So my guest this week is Craig Beasley. Craig, if you're American. He is a very cool dude. He spent a lot of his career touring with some pretty massive bands. He's got a great outlook on tattooing. We had a pretty long chat. Essentially in the forest.
Cool. I like it. That's awesome. Man, your tattoos look great, man.
Thank you. It's I'm definitely in the last sort of, I don't know, maybe the last year, things seem to have moved in the right direction.
Congratulations. It's great. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm recording, just so you know. I just I mean, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, just a little bit of insight into who you are, maybe where you're at, all that sort of stuff.
For sure. Well, my name's Craig Beasley, and I'm a tattooer. I live in Tallahassee, Florida. Based, I grew up in the South, Georgia, and in the U.S. And I've been tattooing for 16 years. I think big reason maybe you wanted to talk to me today is probably some of the history of some of the experiences I've had through tattooing, more so than maybe tattoos themselves, and some of the cool experiences I've had throughout traveling with different musicians and artists and being able to create things on the road, and I don't know, have a lot of fun with it so far, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that's you've got a lot of stories, and that's definitely something I want to cover. But I said it to you before when we've spoken briefly that I've been following your tattooing for a lot of years.
Thank you.
And it's always stood out to me as being really solid, really consistent, bright as hell. And my first experience with your work were probably through bands. We have a few mutual friends, so I've seen some of your work in person, and it's fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So, one of the things that I wanted to touch on was early on from being exposed to your work, I noted that like you were one of the guys, other than like Mr. Cartoon, that really had your sort of branding like nailed. You had an awesome website, great logos, everything looked really professional. Was that like deliberate, or was that just kind of happened?
Yes, I think I've always tried to, I kind of grew up, when a couple years in, I started working with this dude, Russ Abbott, who was old Tattoo Smart. And I think a lot of that came to do with being around Russ, honestly, because, even now, if you're familiar with Tattoo Smart, he's done the same thing with his career and his building his online kind of thing. So I was growing up, as a younger tattoo, kind of under his wing. So I think the branding kind of came neck and neck with working with Russ, because he was also pumping that like very, kind of business mentality into my mind as well. So it was definitely deliberate, but also trying to be creative with it and do it in a different way that I was trying to have fun with it. So I was learning Photoshop and how to build websites and do all this, online stuff, and and tattoo as well, all at the same time. So
it's quite a task.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been pushing, trying to get my head around all the other stuff, whereas before I just kind of, ignored it.
Yeah.
So I went for a quiet patch a year or so ago, and it came to January, and I was like, I've got bugger all, next to nothing in my books. So like, I'm going to take them up to learn how to use Illustrator and all this other shit, to just, I think you get to a point where your tattooing is, is consistent and solid enough, and then you kind of need to present yourself in a more professional manner to like set yourself apart from everybody.
Yeah,
is that fair?
I think it's a lot of, not only creating something, whether it be a tattoo or taking the perfect photograph of something or writing a song for many people, musicians, or whatever art it is creating, but it's also trying to figure out how to show that art to the world, and that's hard, especially with these days with social media have grown so much. It was MySpace days when I started.
Yeah, me too.
I was trying to get on those top 8s back in the day, man. Now it's like I don't even know how to do it now. Again, so social media is like this wave of emotion these days. Talking about, I go up and down. I get depressed. I'll like post something for, like I'll go hard posting things for a while. And I'm like, I'm all about this, and I'm like, man, I hate this. I don't know. That's a tug of war for sure.
I always refer to tattooing as a roller coaster of self-loathing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I think it's sort of, there's a lot of parallels with like music, for argument's sake. I think it's on an emotional level, and
absolutely,
so like, did you find that was kind of how you ended up? I don't know, it's weird. How did you end up touring and connecting with bands?
Really, I really do look at tattooing and music very similar, and I really always have, because I've grown up doing them both in my whole life. Just drawing and playing music and becoming a tattooer, and just I've never stopped either. So with the band thing, it came. I was a couple years into tattooing, and a band from First to Last. Young screamo band, which now is the EDM artist known as Skrillex. That's his band that he started with. So when they were recording their first album, their EP, when he became a part of it, they were basically sleeping on my couch in South Georgia. And, I was good friends with the recording engineer, and they started getting tattooed, and they signed to Epitaph, and it was like, yo, come on the road, tattoo with us for a couple weeks, and I want to get tattooed. Let's come out party with us, have fun. So I was like, okay, fuck yeah, let's do that. Sounds great. And so doing that, there was other bands that were on that tour. There's 3 other bands on it. There was like it was like He Is Legend and Halifax. So a variety of bands on this tour. So then it was like, come out with us on this tour. So it was every tour you go on, it was starting to be the younger band or the headlining band. Eventually From First to Last was opening for Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
They were like, come out on this tour with us. And then I met Joe of Fall Out Boy, and Joe's like, hey, come stay out with me now instead. And fuck yeah, we're staying on this tour next year. Joe wants us to leave.
It's one of those.
His crew, so it was like, so it kind of jumped from one band to another band. So that's I'd stay focused on those members and their crew members. I'd finish their camp, and I'd go to the next camp and come home for a few weeks, and then this other tour would hit me up. Fuck, okay, cool, let's go to this tour. Do a few weeks on this one, or a month on this one, and just kind of ride the wave,
So how long had you been tattooing at that point when you started touring?
I stumbled into that. I was probably like 2 or 3 years into tattooing, maybe. Like a couple, not long. So I was 21, maybe 22. I was still pretty young. And,
it's young enough to be like, fuck it, I'm going.
yeah, sure. And at the same time, it did come hand in hand. I had a very young daughter at the same time. I was just married with a daughter, so I actually had some opportunities to play and be in bands and having to pass on those opportunities where because that wouldn't have still given me the freedom that I've had to be able to do it at my pace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd go on a tour and come home for a while, and I'd go out and keep the balance and keep happiness between myself and my relationship with my wife, and getting to be with my daughter while my kids grow up. So it's always been a crazy battle, and paying attention to my clients at home. And large tattoos, so it's always been a struggle of like keeping myself having fun, living like that fucking punk rock lifestyle that I want to live, and like also create like tattoos that I love and respect, and not trying to go on the road and do bullshit tattoos, going on the road and doing fucking chest pieces, and then
it's not ideal.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like super hard tattoos on the road too. Certainly not like small little bangers. And that was in there too. There's definitely party tats on the road too, but most of it still, we're going out and doing real tattoos. This dude wants a sleeve or a half sleeve, or trying to get this work done and do really the same pace I work at home, just in a different place every day.
Yeah. So did you that sort of balance between home life and touring and tattooing at home, was that obviously it's difficult, but was that kind of a discussion you had with your wife where it was like, this is a too good an opportunity in terms of career to pass up?
I don't even know that it was I ever saw it as a career, to be honest with you. I think it was always like, this is a cool fucking opportunity. These dudes just hit me up wanting to get tattooed. You mind if I go? Like, this sounds like a good fucking time. I can make money, and I can move some appointments around. Is that cool? And my wife has always been super supportive and just like, fuck yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Go have fun. Take pictures and enjoy it. Call me every night, and when the tour comes around close enough, hopefully I can come out and see it. And so she'll come back and meet the bands, but and all that stuff, and hang out for a day or two too. But and same with my kids. They've grown up being able to meet and grow up and be around all this music and be around all these bands too. So they've gotten their little taste of it as well.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's gone from being a fun opportunity, and it's worked. I guess. I heard of you as soon as I had, if it hadn't been for the bands you were with.
Sorry, we're kind of breaking up a little bit. I missed it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's gone from being like, it's been that it's been good for your career. From my perspective, I wouldn't have heard of you as soon as I have if it hadn't been for the bands you were out with.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it was really being in the right time, in the right place, and having and always keeping a super open mind.
Yeah,
and just like taking an opportunity and having fun with it. Like I said, it was like everything I ever did with any musician was never like a job that was like, apply for this thing. It was always it was a friend hit me up saying, come out and work on us. I got these other homies that want to get tattooed also. I'm going to tattoo, this group of people that happen to play music for a living, for, this week or two or three or whatever it may be. I wouldn't even get a home. I would just get a ticket out most of the time and just be like, yeah, I'll figure it out when I'm coming home,
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was going to be out for more than like a month, I'd come home for a week or two, then get back out. But,
depending on what the workload was, and
yeah, exactly.
So how do you work that of logistics with like tattooing those difficult, like chest pieces, sleeves? How do you?
This is even.
What's your process with that?
Before this was before iPads and stuff even. So, so it would be, us in a tour bus or us in a dressing room, tracing paper up on, trace out their chest, and figure out what they want, do the consultation. I had my phone. I might look up some references to look at and draw, and shows over, back lounge, fucking drawing, wake up early, draw. Like, if it's a big drawing, I'm like, I need a couple of days before I can get to you, so I'm gonna do these other like hand size ones while I'm still working on yours. And you're talking like draw from the sketch to the final stencil, hand drawn with no thermofax out on the road, and large fucking tattoos, and a lot of it was also like fixing tattoos and shit too. So not every project was like that, but it was a lot of work, man. For sure. Like riding with the band, that's a lot of work. They expect more out of you too,
Yeah. I of tattooing, musicians and bands is that a lot of the time they're used to being told yes to a lot of things. So when you tell them no, that's not going to work. It can cause some friction. Exactly,
but the big thing I think that went really far for me, like every time, is that I try not to treat people like they were rock stars. I really do try to treat all my clients the same, regardless of what they do for a living. And an important part of that is listening to them. Listen to what they want for sure. Like number one is everybody wants to be heard. Like that's their biggest reason I think people get tattooed by me is because I sit down and I do a consultation with everybody I tattoo, whether it's via Skype or via phone or whatever it may be. But we have a conversation the same as you and I, and they tell me all their ideas and I listen, and in return I hope that they get to listen to me when I give them my ideas back, And nowadays it makes it easier because I have the iPad and I can lay out ideas with them in person and I can show them their ideas. And most of the time it's me showing them how I can make their ideas better. And then by that time they leave their consultation, they already see my idea and feel like it was their own idea even,
It's definitely made things easier.
Yeah. But, I think, working with musicians is the same way. And, they want to be heard, and they certainly always think they're right because they're successful based on their ideas already. But they also want to be treated like a human being. And
absolutely, yeah.
And it was always getting the call back. Being able to still show somebody right from wrong, and we can still make them a better tattoo. I still tattoo for a fucking living, homie. Like I'm here for a reason, so at least let me give you my ideas, and if you don't like them, I'll do yours all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and we can find the middle ground to make a better tattoo, or just work with the idea they have, and make sure that they really believe every idea you give them is theirs.
Yeah, it's an interesting dance.
Yeah.
So I mean, with am I right in thinking that you spent some time on Warped Tour? Is that right?
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of time on Warped Tour for sure, and a lot of it was the same. One band. Like went out with From First to Last on a Warped Tour. I went out with A Day to Remember on a Warped Tour, and Gym Class Heroes on a few. Who else? Tons of them. But that's a hard tour because you're jumping around from one band to the next band to the next band. Like, so you'll be with one group of guys and you got a fucking 50 other bands members all like, yo, I want to get tattooed. I want to get tattooed. I want to get tattooed. So, man, that's an overwhelming amount of work.
And it's a weird one as well, isn't it? Because it's like the show ends so early in the day. Then it's like, is that a lot of sort of on the bus while it's moving kind of stuff?
Well, the bus still doesn't start driving, so the bus would start driving maybe like 2 or 3. So
okay.
Everyone's just in the parking lot partying and running up and down on the bus. So you're sitting on a bus tattooing that everyone's partying in the front lounge. The bus is shaking, like it's hot, like everyone's sweating, and they're just so fucking dirty. Man, that's the worst. Trying to keep people just clean. That's the hard part. Watching after every tattoo I did, I was constantly like, "Yo, come back tomorrow. Let me clean your shit. Come back tomorrow."
Yeah, just come back. Come back and let me clean it.
Yeah, that's a hard challenge. Just still maintaining respectable tattoos at the same time as making people happy. It's always been the challenge, I think, in a situation like that.
I mean, you've also got the difficult thing of dealing with your waist,
Yeah.
In a situation like that, I think people don't realize when you're traveling and tattooing, especially if you're traveling with bands, you're carrying around loads of sharps, and you have to figure out ways to dispose of your clinical waste. And
absolutely, I've always called it the traveling man sharp container. Is always kind of bend the needles and sawed off the ends and drop them into soda bottles. Put the tops back on them and stuff them with paper towels and make sure no one's going to get stabbed or hurt with them later and things like that.
And then you get.
If you are kind of tossing them to the side, but but that was many years ago.
I always find myself getting back to the shop after being away, with bands or whatever, and I've, like I said, got a soda bottle full of sharps, and I'm like, hey, it's me. But I mean, I suppose the advent now of stuff like cartridges and disposables being so much better, it's so much easier,
Absolutely, a lot easier. And when using the cartridges and disposable grips and all that stuff. When I started, I wasn't even using all that shit. It was like carrying around stainless steel tubes and like, I have to go home for a few weeks and clean all this shit, come back out, I'm that old, bro.
It's carrying it all as well.
Just wrapped. I remember the stainless steel tubes. I would just wrap them with tons of gloves and wraps and and just putting them in this one container and just have this one big box full of dirty shit. Fuck up, I don't know, this is crazy. It's really barbaric to get back on it,
So do you do any other traveling conventions or guest spots, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. The tattoo conventions, I've definitely done a lot of that stuff as well. I've always had really mixed emotions about tattoo conventions. I've really enjoyed it in the networking, hanging out with your peers type of situation, like the after parties and just the social environment. You get to walk around and buy stuff from other artists. So I really like conventions for that, but I've never really enjoyed working one in the sense of feeling like tattooing is a competition.
Mm.
That's always really kind of not been my thing. I don't like the pissing contest with tattooing at all. I hate to say that for those who do, because I respect them, but I like tattooing more than that. I believe in different things. That's not the reason I tattoo,
I think people, it's easy for people to lose sight of what it is, Yeah. As it's at the end of the day, it's nice to get some recognition, but it's also, you get plenty of recognition when, people are walking out the door happy with their tattoo. Absolutely.
That's the most gratifying thing is that when you meet somebody new and they tell you they saw a tattoo you make and they've never thought about getting tattooed before, and now they want to get a big ass tattoo because they loved your work so much, and now they just want to have your work on them. That's more gratifying than bringing home a trophy saying that I'm better than the guy that worked next to me. Every time I've won a trophy, I've given that shit to my kids. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't have them hanging in my shop. I don't care about that stuff. For me, I like tattooing because it helps people. That's what I got out of tattooing. That's what tattooing gave to me, and I do a ton of cover-ups. I think 80% of my business is probably covering tattoos or fixing tattoos for people, or making a tattoo for somebody because they want to feel better about themselves in some way, whether they're overweight or they're covering some skin condition or scar or something. That's the reason I tattoo. I truly tattoo to help people, and I want to make a tattoo every time it's when they walk away, and every person that sees their tattoo walks up to them and says, "Holy shit, that looks amazing! Who did that? You look beautiful. That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen." Like, in touching their arms and grabbing them and just making them feel good, like they made a good decision about getting that tattoo and they feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listening to this, they can tell that I have a speech impediment. I'm born with the cleft lip, cleft palate. It's called Vanderloop syndrome. And, for me, I grew up my whole life not really like knowing who I was until tattooing. People always asking me about why I look this way, why is my lip so big, my nose flat, this and that. Until I started getting these tattoos all over myself and tattoos on my neck and shit, and maybe not just getting the tattoos, but even doing tattoos. And people stopped asking me about why I was born this way and why I look this way. And people started talking to me about the things I want to be talked to about, like the tattoos I make and why my tattoos that I wear. And for me, that's what I do for people. That's what I'm able to give back to people that get tattooed by me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's a whole nother deeper fucking thing for me. And I've always really looked at it, about, trying to make a tattoo that really does that. I don't take on every project. I take on the stuff that I feel like needs me, and the people that need me,
is that sort of something you felt as a kid, or was that sort of later in life where you
No, it was kind of more of a realization later. It's I think over the last few years I've kind of realized that's what I do and what I've done, and that's what I've gravitated towards in a way. Or my wife tells me I'm an empath. Are you familiar with like an empath, like the idea of like a human being that's an empath, like personality type?
No, I'm not. Fill me in.
And my wife tells me, it's like this crystal hippie kind of stuff, of course, but basically the idea that a human being that, is constantly absorbing other people's energies, and people may somewhat attract other people to come to them almost for problem solving and situations, and people are always talking to them about their problems and things like that, and always wanting to help no matter how much I don't want to help. And that really has always been my situation no matter what in life, I've always been the first person to stop and help somebody. And
I think
it's a personality trait that I think that some people have and some don't.
No, I agree, man. There's definitely people you encounter that have that you can see other people gravitating towards them, and it's an admirable quality, and yeah.
It also could be a very bad thing because people put a lot of their weight onto you, and if you don't know how to let that weight go, then it just carries on your shoulders. And you take it home at the end of the night. You do all those things, and then it's almost transferred. Like people's energy is getting transferred to you. Like if they're able to let something go by giving it to me, but now I have to take it home and figure out how to let go of all these energies I'm absorbing throughout the week or whatever, and still enjoy myself at the same time, So I think that, I don't know. I don't know how we got back to the empath thing, but.
Oh, hello. We lost a bit of connection there. Hello, you still? Yeah, we lost some connection.
I see you now. Yeah.
So I think, as I was saying, like as tattooers, for a lot of people, tattooing is such an intimate experience as a client that they divulge stuff that they probably wouldn't divulge to anyone else, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, spending 4 or 5 hours with someone a day, you know, you sit there and start talking about everything.
Yeah, the questions of should I leave my wife and
everything
those ones.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know. And people telling you just all their experiences they went through, where their scars come from. You know, all everything in between, you know.
I think what I've noticed with that kind of thing is I wouldn't say the older generation of tattooers, but sort of it started to get. I noticed it started to get a little bit lost, sort of after my kind of generation of tattooers, where the younger. I don't know, maybe it's an age thing where over time you get a bit more empathetic and you can, you know, you learn how to deal with people a bit better and make them feel comfortable with those things.
Yeah, I do think in the beginning of tattooing for me in my younger years, it was all about me. And I could see how younger artists now are still in that phase, you know, because I definitely began tattooing thinking I want to make only my art, make it my way, only for me. I want to talk everybody into getting my shit no matter what. You know, it's all about me. I definitely think that the view I have now is probably something that's come with age. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with the idea of making something for me. You know, that's a beautiful thing too, and that made me very happy for a long time. So, do
you take do you take the time to do stuff art-wise for yourself?
You know, I think I struggle with that every day. I'm not doing enough of that. You know. Because I take on so much of a workload at work. I start tattooing at 11 o'clock every day. I finish at 7 o'clock. I go home. I sit down with my kids for dinner at 7:30. We play a card game for an hour after dinner. You know, then I hang out with my wife for an hour. Then it's like, shit, okay, cool. I got a draw for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, for 5 days a week, you know. And then, so, you know, my one day off after that, it's family day. And, you know, I have my business day. So I think that's where I'm at with my life now, is taking a step back, and that's the next chapter in my life. I think that's the biggest realization I've had recently for myself is that the next chapter I want to make is reinventing myself and taking a lot more time for some personal art and some new adventures and some new creations, you know.
Is that a kind of more of a taking a step back to not reinvent yourself, but reassess yourself as not just Craig Beasley, the tattooer, but, you know, as an artist and as a human being?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. To be quite honest with you, it's maybe to let maybe some old things go and to be open for some new things. You know, I do think that's a little bit of everything. You know, maybe move on some. You know, being able to turn some pages and just, you know, ready for this new chapter in life, which requires maybe tattooing less. That's a big, you know, maybe, you know, right now I take on 2 appointments a day, a 4-hour and a 2 to 4 hour, you know, so maybe it's only doing one a day and taking on less mental stress to be able to spend the next 2 hours a day to paint something or draw something on, you know, or go home and play soccer or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a balance of both, you know. You know, I think, yeah.
Do you think that's something that a lot of tattooers consider and, you know, and take steps to do, try and get a balance? Because, you know, over the years I've noticed that so many tattooers get to, you know, even you know, my age, like mid-30s, or, you know, or middle age, and they're divorced, you know, their lives have gone to shit because they haven't figured out that balance. Yeah.
Instead of our relationships.
Yeah. do you I mean,
go ahead.
Do you think that, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that's kind of, you know, you need that to you need to take that distance.
I really do, especially 16 years in now. I think it goes in waves. That first 10 years was so hard at it. Like not even paying attention to anything on the outside world besides tattooing and just living fast. I don't know if it's just me getting old, and maybe thinking I need to slow down. I'm also just seeing the rest of the world move so fast now, and seeing all this new art come out, and seeing so many people on the internet just being so fucking good at what they do.
Yeah.
So much is changing. It's like, and knowing that I make tattoos for the people I make them for every day, it's, it's hard to feel like I can connect as much with everything. Even the people around me, because I give myself to so many people, it's even harder to connect with maybe my wife and my kids because I've given so much attention to my clients and stuff, So I think the older I get, I think it really is balance. And I think that maybe, with anyone with any career and any passion, probably need to find balance, so towards other human beings and towards art and themselves, like loving yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think I certainly, I've always kind of made that conscious effort to, not always, but maybe in the last sort of 5 to 8 years, made that conscious effort to keep some balance before it got out of hand.
Yeah.
And in some respect, that's probably been a hindrance to my career, if you like.
Well, do you think you passed up on other opportunities because of it?
Maybe no, probably not. No, well, not any ones that I felt were valuable enough. Yeah, were worth it. I mean, maybe I probably could have toured a bit more, but I'm also lazy.
For sure. Yeah, every tour that I ever, there were so many opportunities that were there. They were like, go on the road. I want to go on this tour, but I don't know why. I don't know anybody. And they just hit me up, blah, blah, blah. And my wife talked me into a lot of them, And she's like, go, you don't know where this is going to come, what's going to come next.
Yeah.
I would go, and then, it might be 2 years later or something came out of that. Somebody I met on that tour is like, come out on this other huge tour now. I met you on this tour, but, and so, it's, I did, I think I took more risks when I was younger.
Yeah, I think, don't we all?
Yeah.
I think what did I do? I jumped on a Blink 182 tour, okay. Not tattooing, just working for Famous. Cool. And it's safe to say that I would, like, if that same opportunity came around now, I probably wouldn't do it.
So which tour was that? Because I did a tour or two as well. Like I was out with them with Plus 44.
So when their last UK tour before their hiatus, so after the self-titled record.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were. It was super weird, man. Like you could cut that tension with a knife. It was. Yeah.
Okay. I feel that.
So I spent the majority of the time with Travis and his assistant, little Chris.
Yep.
Chris was awesome. Yeah, he was a great guy. And Mark. So they were on a bus together.
Yep.
But Tom was barely, pretty much nowhere to be seen. I think I saw him once.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty much my memory of of those guys, of that time period as well with that band. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that on its own opened the doors to a lot of things, which is it's weird. It's one of those things, isn't it? You say yes to one thing, or you be like, all right, I'm I think what happened there was I was in a bar with some buddies, and I'd had a few, and my mate showed up, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going up to London tomorrow to do some stuff with Famous. Do you want to come?" I was like, "Yeah, all right, yeah." I was pretty drunk by this point, so I was like, I better set an alarm now while I can still remember. So yeah, I set an alarm, went home, woke up at God knows what time, probably still drunk, to go and get my buddy, and that was it. Rest is history.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, did you have some fun times on it though? I mean, it's cool memories. Get some stories.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, from what I can remember.
Cool. I mean, that's all it's all about. It's like really just enjoying the moment. Having fun, tattoo. And all the stories of these old sailor tattoos and tattooers. Malone and Sailor Jerry. And all these dudes like. That's the cool shit that I was hearing about them is like.
Yeah. How
they were really enjoying. The small world of tattooing and getting these really cool opportunities with it. It wasn't a piss and match for those dudes. Those guys were, building each other up and trying to learn from each other and just having some cool times. A lot of those dudes were traveling with fucking rock stars and shit too, and all kinds of cool shit. I don't know. I just always loved that shit. Like I've always seen tattooing as such a hand in hand thing with music. It's like. Man, I could travel around the fucking country, make art, make some money, fucking have fun, party. Like, I'm in.
I mean, that's why I started getting tattooed.
Yeah, right.
Because of the bands I was into,
Fuck yeah, man. I think that's the coolest thing ever. I've really loved my career for that reason. And it's kind of weird to think this, but like it's hard to know that like anyone else or very many other people would ever be able to experience like that level of touring and traveling and meeting these artists and being able to spend this much time like on the road with them, living on their buses and eating every meal and going to bed in the bunk next to these people for months at a time, the same way as I did, because like most bands aren't touring like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's a different time in music. The world's changed so much, and it was really, man, I feel like I've had the luckiest career in ever, just in the idea of like I did this thing that very few people have ever been able to do for nearly as long as I did. I meet some amazing people, and I never signed a job application to do that. It was just saying yes and just meeting people and trying to treat people with love and respect and fucking having fun. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you definitely seem to like walk into it at like the perfect time, perfect moment in time for like, it's like the stars aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea. I really look back at it and it's like, whoa, how did that happen? Like there were moments in life and so where am I at right now? How am I here with these people in this moment of time? Exactly. Like, wow.
So, I mean, when was the last time you were out?
The band Train.
Yeah.
So now I've been hired to do like rock and roll, like cruise ship touring, and tattooing. So
yeah.
The last thing I've done is the last 3 years I've gone out with Train on a cruise ship where all of their fans go out and we set up a tattoo shop in the casino and we just take a fucking a list of people and we just tattoo from the moment we wake up until we feel like stopping.
Until you can't see straight.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking crazy. And so like I started the first year, I'm tattooing the Train dudes, and they're like, "Yo, come out! Like, we're doing this cruise, and you want to bring a tattooer out for it? We have this idea." So it's like, cool, right on. And so it was like me and one of my homies. I brought a friend and paid for, and we brought our wives and shit. They paid for everything, and we made money. Make good ass money by doing this. Like we have to give the cruise ship a cut, but man, it was so much work you couldn't even handle it. So each year I brought more and more people. I think last year I brought like 6 artists.
Nice.
My parents. I brought my sisters. I brought like 15 people fucking deep, dude. I had a squad. But man, before we even get there to set up our shit, there's a line of people around the casino to get tattooed. It's like a tattoo convention for us. Like,
yeah,
thousands of people stuck in a boat. Like, yo, like, we want to get tattooed.
Well, it's a reverse of a convention because instead of hundreds of tattooers fighting over a few customers, there's like thousands of people fighting over one tattooer.
Exactly. Yeah, it's super cool, So that's been the most recent stuff, and some older bands like The Fray. And, who else? Like, just hang out with like the Day to Remember guys a good bit, and I don't know, Mayday Parade and shit like that. So like emo, some of the screamo, and some of the more older people rock, a little bit of everything.
I mean, a lot of the bands have gone on to be fucking huge, really, haven't they?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I watched it come up from nothing. Like A Day to Remember, and I watched that band coming from literally, like, I met one of those dudes. Like, I was out with Fall Out Boy. The drummer of A Day to Remember they were playing a show down the road for like 100 people or something, like a small venue. And I walked off the tour bus, and he was like, just happened to be standing there. He was coming to the show too. And he got backstage or something, and started talking, and then he got my number, and then he was like, he hit me up later, a couple months later. He was like, yo, I want to get tattooed also. So they were small when I met that band. And now Day to Remember is like selling shit like Fall Out Boy, you know what I mean? Like, those dudes are pulling huge numbers, and to see them go from such a small, well, they weren't that small, but to grow that much and still be fucking super cool dudes, and take me along for a good bit of that ride, and get sleeves. I did sleeves on every one of those dudes, on the road, just sleeve on, literally covered all those dudes all on tour,
Well, Andrew's definitely someone I want to try and get on the podcast.
Hell yeah.
Well, I've messaged him but no response yet, so we'll work on that. But I mean, like, you're talking about like Fall Out Boy. I remember seeing them, and they were support. Do you remember the band Mest?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember them, Fall Out Boy, supporting them in like a tiny club show in Portsmouth.
Super cool.
So.
Yeah, and seeing them grow up to be the incredibly mega superstars they are.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's I find it very odd when dudes in bands and pop punk bands end up marrying like movie stars and shit.
Yeah. I was around for 10 years with Fall Out Boy on almost every American tour they did. So I was around for the whole Ashley Simpson thing where Pete and Ashley got married. And I got to know Ashley really well. Her, just so to like see that whole rise to stardom to divorce to create, man, they went on a crazy roller coaster, dude. and still super cool dudes though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that kind of comes back to having good people around you, doesn't it? And
it does, absolutely.
I wanted to sort of, before we get into like any specific stories, I just want to sort of jump back. You have your own shop, right?
I do.
So your shop's called Monument, is that right?
Yep.
Cool. Whereabouts is that?
So we're in like northern Florida. So we're in Tallahassee, Florida. So it's almost like South Georgia. So it's awesome, man. I like it. It's really chill. It's a big enough city. It's not too huge. And I got a great crew of dudes, man. I got 6 other guys that work with me, and they're all fucking awesome. I love my shop so much.
So who have you got working with you in the shop?
Tattooer named Chris Villiers. So he's like Chris V Tattooer on Instagram. Killer tattoos. Another tattooer named Old Man Manning. He does also sign painting and
awesome.
Painting and stuff like that. And he's super, super good. couple different traditional guys. Ian Skurlock just moved up here and started joining us from Panama City. His whole house got wiped out and everything from a hurricane a few months back, so he just relocated to us, which is pretty wild. And another guy named Thomas Bacot, which is another, those dudes are great American traditional tattooer. I got a black and gray guy named Dane Bradford. He's Bradford Tattoo on Instagram. And another like really awesome like fine line kind of tattooer, just incredibly detailed, named Robert Johnson. Robert does tattoos on Instagram. And man, they're all great. Like I tell everybody this the same thing. Like every one of those dudes are better than me at something. Like they all have their thing that they are so much better than me at. And I got my maybe thing I do better than them as well. So I think we're a fucking cool team, and we all work really well together. So I think it's a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
Really. We got guest artists coming through too. Peter Lagergren came through this year.
He is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Whenever I got tattooed by him over in Sweden a couple times, my wife sent me as a present. Built a really cool relationship with him, man. I think the world of that dude. So I was already a big fan of him, and then got to meet him and his wife and his kids, and I took one of my kids over with me when getting tattooed by him. And they opened up their home to me, and then they brought their whole family to Florida. And he brought his wife and his kids, and they stayed on their home with us for like almost 2 weeks.
Amazing.
And tattooed at my shop, and man, he's just incredible. Man, he's an amazing dude. Man, he's like all around like tattooer and human being. I don't know that I've met anyone I still to this day like more than that guy. Like I think the world of that dude. I hope he knows it. He's so talented. The Swedes, whatever's in the Swedish water, man, they know what's up.
I think all my experiences of the Scandinavian folk have been awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that's important in the shop to have like everybody that does something a bit different, so you can all feed off each other?
I do, just the same as I do think it's probably healthy to have a lot of people doing the same thing so you can push to the next level, which I probably could have a little more of that as well, because I can see the traditional guys kind of like teaming up and doing their thing and building their knowledge on traditional tattoos every day, I wish that we could. I wish there was more of that in my studio, in the sense of, the guys focusing on the traditional. There's also a lot more conversation on realism and maybe new school or just talking more about every style of tattoo. I think they're all so important these days. But not to say that not to say that I want less of that. I'm just saying I also want more. Just so I can learn more, Yeah. Oh man, you do such amazing black and gray tattoos, dude. Having more people around like you in my life would level up like crazy.
Thank you. I don't know. I've definitely sort of. I'm going to say it. I got bored of doing like traditional. So it's not that I got bored of doing the traditional tattoos, as I got bored of not learning stuff. Yeah. Sure. So I go through these phases where I really home in on one particular style for ages, and I'm like, that's what I'm doing now. Don't try I'm just doing this for a bit.
Absolutely.
And then once I feel like I've nailed it in terms of the technical aspect, then the rest of it kind of comes with time. Then I move on to something else, So my next thing is I want to start getting stuck into some color realism and giving that a go. And
cool. Man, there's so many talented people out there. It's crazy.
I mean, I work with. Have you heard of Jordan Croak?
Yes. Yeah.
So I work with him, and that working with that guy alone is for 6 months as my work's really gone really taken a jump, just because he's so consistent. Knowing that there's somebody sat across the room from you that's every tattoo he does is really consistent and really solid. You're like, fuck, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah, and really seeing his little tricks, like how is he, like how much skin is he leaving and something compared to, you know what I mean? Like how saturated is it? You know, like you get to see that in person every day. That's
Yeah.
You know, like what are those, hash marks looking like? You know, those little, like how soft is he making? You know, like there's so many things you can see in person every day that you can't really see on Instagram.
That shit is saturated, I can assure you.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely been a game changer for me. Like previously, I've never really worked with other artists that are doing the same sort of stuff as me. So I've had to look outside for that influence and that drive. So having it like so close, it's like, it's been good for me.
For sure. Do you travel much?
So actually, I did get an invitation recently from a mutual friend of ours, Travis McCoy.
Oh, cool.
So we had a discussion about me going over to tattoo him.
Dude, absolutely, bro.
So we need to figure that out. So
yeah, absolutely.
Travis is also at some stage when we figure out he's going to come on as a guest on the podcast, and we're going to have a chat.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, he was probably the last famous person I tattooed. Me and my wife went down and hung out with him and his lady down in Orlando. We were getting off the last Fall Out Boy tour, and I did a bunch of just hotel tats on him and his homies.
Yeah, I saw some of the photos.
yeah. I just went and played golf and just partied with him a few days, and it was great, man. It was that was a really cool little weekend because it was really about hanging out with his homies. Yeah. Just chilling, pool, just being friends.
Yeah.
It was that's a really powerful thing, and I can tell that Travis is the type of person that needs that in his life more because he, as we all have our ups and downs and self struggles and things like that, he has gone that, and I think he needs as many friends as we all do,
Yeah,
I've always tried to treat him like a friend, and he is my friend, and I hold him very dear.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I think that's probably why we became friends so early on, because me and my buddies would go to gym class shows, and rather than being crazy, oh my god, let me take a photo, we're let's have a drink, let's get to the bar,
yeah, for sure.
And I think that's eventually led to a friendship, and I've been out on tour with those guys, selling, not tattooing, but selling their merch, just
cool.
So
that's awesome.
It's kind of like you say, it's about being, treating them like normal people.
Yeah. That's a huge key to building a friendship with anyone that is successful at anything, is treating them like a human being and with love and respect and earning that back and walking with confidence and, not sucking up to somebody too bad,
Yeah.
No, fuck, I tried, man. I've got some fun stories with Travis, man. That dude, he's probably one of the few people I fucking threw up all over in the back fucking lounge in the fucking bus one time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we were sitting there going too hard one night. I was just sitting there. He asked me about the last time I saw him. He was like, yo, remember that time you threw up all over me, bro?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I remember, dog. I was hoping sitting in the back lounge and just going a little too hard, drinking and smoking and doing all that fun shit. I got my medical card. It's cool. It's Florida. But going hard and just one thing led to another, dude. Throwing up all over that dude's lap. Oh fuck, my bad. Yeah, it was fucking gross. Yeah, he's one of the and he still calls me back, so that means we're good.
Yeah, I haven't thrown up on anyone, but not yet, anyway.
Well, he's a cool man. He really is. he's always been good to my family too, man. All my kids have grown up around that dude over the years too. So
Yeah.
cool.
I think, it like you say, it's some people, you just gravitate towards, and like he's a good guy. So I think,
Yes.
I think everybody should be friends with that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember what you tattooed on Travis, because I remember very vividly what you did on Matt's chest.
For sure, yeah. Matt. So Travis started by like, just start like fixing up all my shit. So I basically just started like, I just went over most of Travis's stuff, like, so like the majority of what you see on Travis, I've just like gone over and recolored most of it. I also did like most of his neck. I think he already had one on his neck, but I did his throat and the side of his neck. He had like angels on his hands, and I covered those up with some big silhouetted
Polo notes. Yeah.
So I've just spent a lot of time, I've done like a bunch of random things on him throughout too, but a lot of the time with Travis was like, yo, fix this up and do this random shit on me today too,
Fell into the trap that a lot of us have, where we got some not so great stuff when we were younger. And
for sure. But Travis, but Matt, the drummer of gym class, he was one of them that was, very big, very real tattoo that, he got on tour, I met them they were opening on a Fall Out Boy tour, and I was tattooing a bunch of the dudes, and Matt came along and was like, yo, I want this big chest piece of a lighthouse, waves on, say, the good life. And like, okay, fuck yeah, give me a couple days to draw it up, and his first session was like 9 hours or some shit. Like on tour in the dressing room, like outline and shading on the whole thing. But then he flew down to Georgia, got tattooed at my shop there a few times, and then I started going on gym class tours. So I finished it on one of their tours as well. But man, he jumped in deep on tour, made a really big decision that I don't know that either of us were ready for at the time.
That's one of those tattoos of yours that every time I see it, I'm like, I can't take my eyes off it. I just want to stare at it for ages.
Thank you very much. That really means a lot to me. That's awesome. Thank you. Like that, because that was a really difficult tattoo. There's no second tries. It's like you trace it out. Chest panel from the sketch. There's no copy machines to make something bigger or smaller. It's everything's drawn to scale at the first fucking try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the hand-drawn stencil to putting this thing on his chest and hoping it's symmetrical and everything lines up right. Still a pretty young tattooer. I'm only tattooing probably like 5 or 6 years at this point. And
that's stressful.
Like doing this level of work, I feel like at that stage, like it's throw myself in deep, but believing in myself at the same time, but definitely and being excited to do it, like fuck yeah, I can do that, but
yeah.
Looking back on it, I'm like, holy fuck, that's kind of barbaric.
do you think it was kind of like, and because I know, certainly when I was younger and saying yes to stuff like, probably now would be a bit more reserved about. Do you think it's like that kind of blind confidence or like blind ignorance or whatever? When you're young, you're like, fucking yeah, I'm doing that. It's cool.
It probably was, yeah, absolutely, and I probably would have given him a little bit more warning and the level of tattoo he was getting into, and maybe like think a little longer about it type of shit. But I mean, at the same time, I know he loves it, and I know he's worn it very proudly. So I think that tattoos are also meant for that moment. So
yeah,
you know what I mean, like there might be times where he's like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but I'm sure the majority of them are, I'm really happy I did.
I mean, I imagine the only regret about like the decision making process was doing it in a dressing room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not in like a shop in a nice chilled environment.
Yeah, because there were a lot of people watching him,
Yeah.
And,
being on the receiving end of that, like, of, having a big tattoo done, and like on somewhere so painful, and like people standing around watching, you're like, oh, just fuck off, everybody go away.
And I mean, he got tattooed for like 6 hours, and then got up, played a show for an hour or whatever. And, took a couple hour breaks, and then came back and sat for like 3 more hours to shade. You know what I mean? Like all the way up to a bus call until we're like, I'm getting kicked out of the dressing room. The venue's fucking closed. Like trying to get through that. Like pretty crazy.
I think he's a ninja in disguise, maybe.
For sure. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into, bro. All around with like that, and just like, like that's also like a big bill. I definitely was, I still charge everybody for tattoos, even being on the road, even no matter what level of tattoo, rock star you are. So I don't know that every time someone sat down, they were really understanding what they were getting themselves into. These opening bands, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
that was one I always questioned too. I'm like, how much that's about to cost, right?
And like, I know how much you're making, and this is going to cost you, right?
Yeah. So,
do you find that? Do you think maybe if you were to sort of start that process now, like touring again, that like you'd be as successful, or in terms of like you're charging your normal rate, so like obviously there's not as much money going around in the industry at that lower level now. So like, do you think you would have as much success maybe, or as many bands wanting you to come out with them?
Yeah, I think I see a lot of the younger tattooers. Well, not a lot, but I still see a few tattooers trying to kind of take that path now. And it seems like it would be a lot harder to do it as successfully as I felt like I did it, just having to put in a lot more money, like as opposed to just jumping on a bus and riding around and like very little expense at that point, compared to like, I know tattooers now that I'm fly this over to Europe, tattoo for 3 or 4 days, and fly home, and like I see the tattoos they did in that weekend. They didn't even pay for one way of that ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that more so that it's, but also looking at it in the same sense of like, I don't think as any tattooer we look at it, and I never looked at it in the sense of money. I always looked at it in the sense of, or whether it was going to financially make sense. I think I've always looked at it in the sense of, that sounds like a fucking awesome time that like in a crazy experience that I would never have again. Like the money came along. Like,
yeah.
I never made a kill. I probably would have made more money sitting at home just focused. Like I do better now because I stay booked as fuck at home 6 months in advance. People are waiting to get tattooed. So I definitely financially do better sitting in my shop every day now. But, the experience is different. And I think that money doesn't replace that. That's that. I did every single bit of the traveling with the musicians for the experience, Did
you, at what stage in the traveling did you open your shop? Was that early on or before, or?
It was all kind of the same time. I pretty much had the shop. I was only tattooing. No, I take it back. I was already touring with like for First to Last and Fall Out Boy and all that stuff, and then I kind of opened my first shop. But I was only maybe tattooing for maybe like 4 or 5 years when I opened my first shop. So so I was maybe touring for a couple years. But opening my first shop was more so like, I'm in the South, like in the country, where one about having a bunch of people work. It was just about a private shop, a couple of close friends that I loved that I want to work around and work with every day, and see, if another opportunity comes, then cool, And being close to my home and my family, so like, with kids and stuff, my wife has support too, it all, was all just about having like a comfortable, fun life.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, it's easy, isn't it, to sort of to lose sight of the fun side of it when it becomes about business. And
you know, I've had opportunities to go and work in big cities. You know, like there was an opportunity that came, you know, years later where some of the people affiliated with Fall Out Boy and some of their management team and different people, they kind of pitched this idea at me to open a tattoo shop with them in Chicago. And it ended up opening. It's called Code of Conduct. It's still open to this day. But they pitched me the idea of basically, you know, opening this bar that would be above, or opening this tattoo shop that would be above their bar, Angels and Kings, which they had in New York and LA and stuff. And they were doing it in Chicago. They were trying to do this tattoo shop thing where there was tattoos upstairs or next door, next to the bar they were opening, and trying to just kind of like keep it all in the same network. I'd already been working with their bands for years, and basically bringing me in to either move up there and run it or consult to build the whole thing and this and that. And you know, I already had my shop in Georgia, and just, you know, this pace of life that I live. And you know, it came down to doing that, and I ended up passing on it, you know, very last minute, you know, when it came to like, yo, fly to, you know, you're flying to Chicago next week to bring this idea to life, you know, I made the call of like, yo, I don't really want to do this, you know, part of it, because like, I didn't want to I didn't want my name to be affiliated with that kind of, you know, I didn't think that was good for tattooing. You know.
The whole. Is that
bringing that music and you know, like bringing that pop culture into tattooing, and you know, it was before all these TV shows. It was all. Kind of hand in hand at the same time too, and I just don't. Man, it's just not for me. You know, that doesn't sound like a fun ride. That sounds like business.
Yeah, it is.
You know, like.
It becomes more about like selling a product and a whole lifestyle kind of thing, isn't it? Rather than like just doing fun tattoos.
I wonder, like, what would my life be like now? Would they have promoted the fuck out of me? Would I be the superstar? Would I be on these TV shows if I had that management company behind me supporting me with this and that and blah, blah, blah? Would I be a judge on this TV show, the same as Oliver Peck and this and that? You know, like, you know, I think about those what ifs and shit, but like.
But do you think you'd want that? Do you think you'd want these things?
You know, I tell you, I live in a small city, tattooing people that I enjoy tattooing every day, spending time with the people I love spending time with. I don't think I'd change a thing in my life, man. I've enjoyed every single part of it, you know. I'm glad I didn't make choices, no matter how successful I see other people or all the attention I see people getting on social media and this and that. I know that my heyday was in MySpace days, probably. You know, I'm okay with that because I still have those stories. I have those memories. I have all that I still hold very dear, and I lived a life that I'm the only one that will ever live. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people in the UK might have seen your Kerrang article.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did you get that? Did you get a copy of that?
I did not.
There was
Wait, you talking about the more new one? What it was like last couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I actually, what's crazy is I was over there flying to get tattooed by Peter, and I was in the airport with my son, and I happened to see it. And my son picked it up, and he was like, "This is the cover of this magazine, Dad." It's like, "Whoa, let me see that." Or he was looking through. He was like, "You're in this magazine, Dad," and I was like, "Whoa," you know, I was like, I didn't even know it was out then, you know. And so me and my son had this moment in the airport where I felt like the craziest rock star ever, like looking at the thing with my boy and him just telling me how proud he was of me and shit, dude. That meant the world to me, man.
So I mean, do you think, like we were saying about all the shows and that, and because you got into this world like pre social media's boom, if you like, would you want any of that stuff, like the TV side of things, and would you? You know,
not. There was a point in time where I definitely felt like I would.
I
think right when it all started. You know, like right when the Ink Master started, it was hard not to be like, man, I could go on and win that. I should be a judge on that. You know. It's hard not. I don't. You know, especially knowing a lot of people that were involved with it. You know. But but looking at it now, man, I'm really glad I'm not. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like in any way, you know, regardless of money, you know, I'm glad that's not me. You know, even though I've been affiliated with this pop culture and maybe do poppy or colorful tattoos than more people, and I might be looked at in that same way than most people, but I'm glad I didn't do that because that's not something that I feel like I would enjoy the experience of, you know, and that's something that I feel like I would like get the right clientele base out of. I think it would bring me a whole new world of people that wouldn't really love my tattoos for what they are and love me for who I am, you know?
Yeah.
I think it opens up so much more that isn't necessarily a positive thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely in the UK, the TV side of things it's definitely gone down a pretty negative route. You know, the show that everybody that comes in and gets tattooed asks about is tattoo fixers. Are you aware of this? Aware of this show?
Yeah. No, they're not. Oh, tattoo fixes?
Yeah. So
I haven't seen this.
So the premise is people come in with, more often than not, like really shitty little tattoos they had when they were drunk on like lads' holidays, you know, to Magaluf and whatnot. And or they're like really, really dodgy, crude tattoos that their mates done in their kitchen.
Yeah.
And they're covered up by tattooers that probably shouldn't be doing cover-ups, you know, and like, so they're really like inappropriate cover-ups for, like, you know, for the sake of being on TV.
Oh, okay.
So like it's attracted some not so, you know, let's say it's attracted some fame hungry tattooers.
Yeah.
And it seems to have brought out this culture where people, my theory is that they're actively going out and getting really shit tattoos in like, you know, in let's say well, you know, on like fucking dicks and you know, their ass and shit, so that they can get on telly and have like their 5 minutes. So it's kind of gone down this really dark hole, and it's very negative, and you know, you know.
And I think a lot of that is also these people want to do, like, get these really bad tattoos just to get more likes on Instagram and like that. Like, people do like tattoos that don't hold up any kind of longevity or do any kind of respectable thing for the person they give them to, purely for the sake of just making a good photo on Instagram. You know, that's you know, like that's weird. Like doing something deliberately for the photo that you know isn't going to be, you know, something good for the person.
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd thing. Like these shows in particular, like it's because, and it's the same. It's an old problem that's probably with shops as well. You know, where the minute you get a tattoo studio that's not owned and operated by a tattooer, then you know, it gets a bit lost, you know, and it becomes about the bottom line. It doesn't become about the tattoos and the clients. It becomes about money.
Yep. And there's no pride or respect to that. You know, that's a hard one. You know, I'm not saying that there's not people out there that do that right as well. So there's definitely some people who don't tattoo that own shops that do it right, but the majority don't understand what it's like to be a tattooer. You know, I still. You know, I tattoo more than anyone in my shop still to this day, by far. You know, and it's because I want to. You know, I love it. I don't. You know, I'm never not going to.
So, I mean, you had a. Do you feel like your start with Russ definitely sort of made you a bit more open to that sort of side of things? You know, like being like, I just want a tattoo, and like, you know.
I don't know that Russ in all respect, I don't think the Russ tattoos nearly as much anymore, and I respect him for that because he's so focused on business stuff. I think he still tattoos a lot. Probably just he has a good balance. That's the thing. Nothing negative to say. He just has a really good balance, whatever he's doing. And I still just I feel like I maybe neglect some things because I tattoo so much.
Is there anything you won't do when you're tattooing?
Yeah. I don't do words. I don't do anything with writing in it, oddly enough. And I try to always avoid that. I try to just do. I always tell people a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I have a 4-hour minimum. So really, anything that comes to me is always larger tattoos. So most of the time it's not someone getting words. Or just really. I don't know. I mean, I would do tribal and it's all right if it was cool. It's not that I just, like I said, I just do the 4-hour minimum because I stay so busy.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that I'm telling people no every day for something. It's, I think it's, if someone really, really wants something by me and really wants me to do it, I'd pretty much do whatever as long as I felt like it wasn't gonna be a bad tattoo or do bad for you know what I mean make it I don't want to fuck somebody's life up.
Yeah.
As long as it helps them, but if I don't, if I can't connect with the person or the idea, those are the ones I pass on,
Yeah.
Someone's coming at me too hungry, too hard, there's weird vibes or something. I'll pass on someone's vibe based on more than their idea.
How long did it take you to learn that lesson?
I think I'm learning it. I think I get involved with somebody and then I get halfway through a tattoo and I'm like, man, this person is just driving me fucking crazy. I gotta not take on this personality type ever again.
Yeah, I think we definitely, we have a junior artist in the studio, and I'm always saying it to her. I was like, the best lesson you can learn is when to say no.
Yeah, for sure. And probably for the females that really applies. People's intentions are probably a lot different with them. Being able to pick out, people getting tattooed for the right reason, I think is a valuable thing.
So I've got a short series of questions.
Cool.
I guess you could call them quick fire. Probably not really quick fire. Probably take ages, but. So, your first experiences of tattoos, like we talked about earlier, was music mainly. What was your first tattoo? Like the first tattoo you did, and then the first tattoo you got yourself?
Well, the first one I got, I was out of high school. Me and my buddy we joined the military. We joined the Marine Corps. He's my best bud to this day. Me and him still play music together every week. Been my best buddy for 20 years, still to this day. I joined the military, and right out of boot camp, we got I got a little star on the front of my arm by a tattooer named Chuck Donahue.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck, awesome tattooer, still tattoos now to this day. But I still wear it proud, I'm sure he looks at it and he's like, let me do something else to that, but I love it. Yeah. He's a more traditional tattooer these days, and it's a little fancy on my arm, so I like showing people that Chuck did it. How
did you come to join the Marines? What brought that on?
I think it was just being in a small town, and wanting to be able to get out of that small town. Just being like, I could travel, and feeling like music was a harder option. Like, I'm never going to be in a famous band or something, or not really seeing that, what path it would be. It was just more like, I can. It was basically me and him were like, let's go to boot camp. That sounds like fucking crazy shit that no one ever does. And then I got a job doing videography, so I learned how to do video and shit in the Marine Corps. So
right.
I ended up going active with that. And then, but then 9/11 happened, so I had to get out honorably. I'll just say that since I'm mental hospital, took that route. But during that mental hospital time, I was just drawing tattoos every day. I was fucking drawing tattoos in my little sketchbook. I was at a magazine. They let me sit at this table with some colored pencils, and I ended up drawing what became my portfolio to get my apprenticeship.
Oh, nice.
So I got out of that.
So how long were you in the military?
For about 2 years.
2 years.
I signed up for 4. Then 9/11 and shit happened. But I didn't want to be. I didn't really support all that stuff as much, you know. Yeah. That's a hard thing to go into.
Did you feel like that experience kind of maybe give you the discipline to really get stuck into tattooing?
Absolutely. Yeah. If anything, it was a huge discipline. I had a lot of discipline coming out of it. So it really was like work hard as fuck. I just fresh out of like military. So I was already used to working hard for sure. But it was also a huge lesson of like, holy fuck, I'm going to have another real job like that if I don't become successful with this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that. Like, I got to color on people the rest of my life. This sounds way fucking cooler, dude.
Like, just scribble on them, yeah. Scribble on them and hope for the best.
Yeah, like I get paid more to color on people than I did to be in the military. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me, you know? Like, how the fuck is that? Like, still to this day, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Like this world is backwards. But, but I got out of the military and met what's now my wife, you know, but I met her 3 months after I got out, or a couple months after I got out, and then a couple months later we found out we were having a kid and started my apprenticeship all kind of at the same time, and man, it was just fast paced, man.
So how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 36, and I was 19 at the time.
It's been like it sounds like it's been just a fucking whirlwind from like the get-go. Like, yeah. When have you had time to do all this shit, man?
Yeah, I wake up early, I fucking go to bed late, and I love every fucking minute of it, man. I do. You know, even tonight when I get off the phone at 9 o'clock, me and my wife, we have band practice. We play music together. You know, me and my wife and my best friend, and another guy, and we're going to another state. We've been, you know, it's been our band's been growing and shit. So now we're getting hired to go and play gigs at other places and shit. So
nice.
I'm gonna fucking start tattooing again on the road, but this time it's gonna be with my fucking band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and my wife and the people that I want to be on the road with more. You know, and that's probably the biggest realization I've gotten out of all this and all these years of touring and traveling is like, I'm older now, and I still have that drive to want to be on the road and still like enjoy my life, and I think that's the is like, you know, my wife and I do music. She sings, I play bass, my best friend plays piano, we fucking have a drummer, we write music. We've been writing music together since we've been kids, and we're growing, and the band's growing, and fucking yeah, I'll fuck it, you know, tattoo on the road and fucking play music and tattoo in the fucking hotel in the day. I don't give a fuck, you know, like whatever, you know. Back to the road. If that's
I think you need to chill out. I think you need a breather. Sounds like you need to chill out.
I don't know, man. My kids love it. Like, it's, you know, I do. You know, I say the same thing to myself every night. I need to chill out, but you know, but man, I'm still hungry. I'm still as hungry as ever, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, especially watching everyone else, you know, around me still, you know, being so successful, and I don't want to do anything the same as anyone else, dude. I'm my own person. I live a fucking crazy pace of life. I love it. I love the fuck out of it, man. It doesn't make any sense to me or anyone else that knows me, or probably anyone else that looks at me.
I mean, to look, you know, for me anyway, looking like, you know, having followed you for your work for so many years, like, you would think you would be like, you know, in your 40s, pushing 50, you know. That's a lot. You've packed a lot in, you know.
well, thank you. Yeah, I'm 36, man. You know, I can't wait for the next. Can't wait for the next 16 years of my career, you know.
So the next one, your favorite piece. So like the favorite tattoo you've got, or and the favorite one that you've done yourself?
For sure. Well, I'd say my favorite one I've got is hard to say, but man, I have this chameleon on my forearm, and it's my lizards, my chameleons, and this guy Alex Nunez from Costa Rica, he made it, and it's probably my favorite because of the quality of tattoo is amazing, but also the idea that I look down and see my chameleon every day on my arm, it's still probably it's the thing that kind of brings me zen, and it's. I go home every, I have like 13 chameleons or something.
I was going to say, I was going to bring it up, the reptiles. And
yeah, we just have babies. So we have 10 babies, and we have these 3 beautiful, beautiful chameleons that we hatched from eggs 3 or 4 years ago. Man, they're my zen. That's when I go home and I get to, besides my family, but I can stare at them and I forget about the rest of the world. I forget about what I'm going to create tomorrow or what, anything that I'm stressed about. And I get to spend some time, just thinking about how beautiful like nature and the world is for that little bit, like
those little ones. They don't even look real. They look like
they're so cool, man.
They're so cute. I want one.
Dude, come and visit, man. Please, you're welcome to tattoo with me. Come see the lizards.
That'd be fucking sick.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a guest room, so you're absolutely welcome anytime.
Thank you. It's definitely like I've always wanted. I have tattooed in the States. When I was super early on, when I think I'd only been tattooing maybe 6 months. And my buddy taught me into going to stay with him in Vegas.
Yeah, that's probably a hard. That's a hard spot to tattoo for the first 6 months.
Fuck knows, like honestly, it was I think I did more damage to my liver in those few months than I've done in like however many years. But it was a big eye opener, in terms of like I'd worked in shops, but then none of them had been that busy, and like that workflow of like having to like you couldn't turn anything away, you had to do whatever came in the door. That was a big shock.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world. That's not like it. That's not how my shop is.
Oh yeah, those days are long behind me now. I'm like a one a day kind of guy.
Yeah, that's good. That's healthy.
But I say that one a day, it could take 10 hours, 10, 12 hours. But.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so what's the favorite piece do you have a favorite piece that you've tattooed or?
Man, that's a really difficult one. I don't think I have one that stands out, and I think that I go through waves of that. I think they all remind me of a different experience, just the same as everybody that wears them. It's just like we were talking about Matt with the Good Life tattoo. I know so many people recognize that tattoo that it's such an old tattoo. So if I made that tattoo now, it would be so different. I would do so many things different. But I look at it and I'm like, man, I really love the experience I had with that tattoo, with that person, how difficult it was for me at that time in my life. I still love every time I see that tattoo. I still love every time I see that person. I know he loves it as much as I do. And we still share such an amazing thing together. And I'd say he's up there, but I would still say that about like truly almost every tattoo I've done, I'd say there's very few that I've done that I wouldn't say that about, but it stands out to me because it really was that noticeable, and a lot of attention did come from it. So I'd say maybe that one's pretty up there.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I think that's the best tattoo I've done.
It's just a very poignant one, right?
Yeah, it's exactly, it's a pop. I think it's like a pop culture tattoo. It's it's like an iconic tattoo, and I think I knew when I went into it, I knew that. You know, it's like writing a pop song as a musician, like you're you know. And I think that's what Instagram's about right now too. Is that people just trying to do these tattoos that just make a photo that gets a fucking billion likes. You know, it's about, you know, and or do such a realistic photo of this pop icon, this person that they can relate to. And it's such a realistic photo of this photograph, you know what I mean? It's such a realistic tattoo of this photograph, but it still needs to be this pop culture kind of thing, you know. I think that's what I see in that tattoo, you know.
Yeah.
And people like it, but is it because it's a good tattoo, or is it because they can relate to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know whether, I mean, obviously for me it's like technically a great tattoo, and you know, it's so striking. But again, you know, it's because I have a personal connection with them as well, and like that you know, it was almost when they were, you know, that sort of riding high, like the height of their popularity, and like they were living a good life, and like they, you know, you know, it kind of, I don't know if that's you know, that's why I'm drawn to it so much, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. You know,
the story behind it.
I agree.
But I mean, you've done some. Am I right in thinking you did a banner for them? Did you do some artwork for them?
Yeah, absolutely. That was super cool too. They you know, they asked me to do a watercolor style painting. Travis gave me this idea of a skeleton holding a boombox with a snake and stuff, and man, they blew that thing up like 30 fucking feet.
They had it out on the European tour I did with them. That was the backdrop.
Oh man, that's cool. You know, I never saw that in person.
It was cool, man. It was real cool.
Man, cool. That's awesome. You know, like I saw a photo of it one time, and it, you know, blew my mind. But I've always, you know, like that'd be like a dream to get that thing one day or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like where the fuck would you put it? But
I don't know. You know, the dream would really be to be able to see them play again with that behind it.
Yeah.
You know, like this day, now that I'm older, like have like stand with my kids at a show with that behind the backdrop, like now or something. You know, like. That'd be the coolest thing ever. and because I want to see them back on stage again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I'm hoping. Well, I think, are they writing a new record? Is that right?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they just made just went and recorded a whole other album in Nashville, I believe.
Oh boy, I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time.
Me too. I mean, I truly am excited about it. I can't imagine it to be bad, you know, because he has the band with him. It's not like, you know, they're not going to a ton of producers. He wrote music with his band this time. It seems like, anyways. I haven't heard of it. From the photos I saw Matt having a good time playing drums, and Dasashi and I playing guitar, and when they were fucking having some fun on the vocals.
All the stuff the footage. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Like I do with everyone. So, like you know, seeing all the posts, and when they're on the tour with Offspring and stuff, they look like they were having the time of their lives. You know, it's nice to see. You know.
For sure. I mean, how could you not after like doing that for so long and then like stopping? Like, those dudes had to figure out like what else to do with their lives in that meantime. I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
I love tattooing. Like no one can ever take that away from me. You know, I'm glad I passed on every opportunity to be in any music project or anything. I would never trade my life for a million years, man. I get to control every single bit of it. I love every bit of it. I love music so much. I've been so blessed to be able to travel around and feel like I'm some very, very, very small part of it in these people's lives, but feeling like I'm connected to it and amazing experiences. And tattooing took me on this journey that I would have never in a million years imagined. I couldn't even dream of what I got to experience with half this shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, you know, and that tattooing gave me that, you know? Do
you have any stories that you can repeat?
there's a lot of partying and stuff like that. Definitely, dude, I went out with gym class on the Lil Wayne and T-Pain tour.
Oh my god.
For a month, bro. Like, I remember going to a party at T-Pain's house on New Year's. I mean, I'm talking, dude. There's his whole downstairs level of his house is just, girls dancing and everyone having a blast, dude. They were just, I felt very lucky to be there. I felt like I was a very unique person to be in that room. Stood out like a fucking sore thumb. And I was very, very, very accepted. You know what I mean? Everyone showed me nothing but love, and it was just one of those moments. I'm like, who am I? Where the fuck am I at? Like, how did I get to this place in my life making fucking like coloring on people? Like, what the fuck? Like, and being out with Fall Out Boy just the same. I remember being on a tour with them, selling out Madison Square Garden one night, and then the next night them doing this little like surprise pop-up show up in like Buffalo, New York, I think it was, and they opened up for like 4 Years Strong. Before 4 Years Strong, I blew up.
Yeah.
And it was like this fucking maybe like 200 people in this venue, dude. So they sold out Madison Square Garden one night, and the next night we played this like 200 capacity show where none of their crew members could even work because it was so small. So everyone, including myself, just started stage diving and fucking having the best time, dude. It was the coolest shit ever. It was like one extreme to the next. It was like, and one of those moments, just like, wow, Then they went into Canada, and I didn't have my passport, and Joe's like, yo, I'm gonna buy you a hotel in fucking Madison Square Garden at a W for like 4 days, and I'll be back, and we'll pick you back up and stay with us for a few more weeks. Like, fuck yeah, cool.
Cool, yeah, sure, yeah.
I can book some appointments in New York. If I can tattoo in the hotel a few days, they come back, jump back on the tour, let's go. Like what? Where? Who? Like what? How am I here right now? These dudes are from Chicago, from South Georgia. What am I? Where? How did this happen? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like,
I mean, do you still feel like that now? Like when you're going out, when you're out with them, or you're on the cruises, you're like, how the fuck do you sort of sit back and think? What?
Absolutely, and talking to people like yourself about it, it's pretty rare that I talk about this kind of stuff, So it's like it's I definitely on the cruise, or I might go out for a weekend here and there, or definitely have those thoughts of like, man, that's cool. And the cruise, I think that's probably too, because the cruise has been that realization in the sense of like being able to bring my whole family in it. Like I brought my parents and my sisters, and now they none of them have tattoos. They've all grown up watching my career go from I started this shit when tattooing wasn't popular to now, them saying, why are you touring with these bands we've never heard of? And then these bands are now famous. Now they're like, fuck yeah, my son tattooed them. Now they're fucking proud of me. Now I'm taking them on fucking cruises and, taking them to shows to meet these bands and shit. And now they're all like, fuck yeah, I'm proud of you, so... like that's still a realization of that same feeling, as of like, man, I'm here in this moment with my family and on this moment and enjoying this life together, and it's cool.
I think that's probably one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on is, it's people talk about like touring, it's like a subculture, like the guys in bands and like. It's a whole different world, but like because with social media, those people that are doing that now, it's like they're shoving it in everyone's faces. Like, look at what I'm doing, look at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing's a bit more guarded, and it's whereas when you started doing it, it's like there wasn't people weren't able to like share on social media like a 20-second clip of somebody like hanging out or whatever, like
I think the big thing is like social media for everybody is just everyone's trying to constantly like paint a different picture of what life is really like. They're trying to make everything look better. Like this is how exciting my shit is. But all these rock stars are bored as fuck all day. Like that's why they put me out. Like they're all on a fucking tour bus. in a different city every night, not having any friends. They can't leave this fucking venue. They're not allowed to because they're getting bodyguarded because they're all fucking famous. So they have no one they can hang out with or talk to other than the people that work for them, which are fucking working. So, or their wives that come out for this week at a time that they don't really want out any longer than that because they're also working because they're on the tour. So then there's this gray area of me, and I fell into this weird world of like, these bands weren't inviting me out. It wasn't their management hitting me up. It wasn't, it wasn't any of that. It was them saying, yo, I'm going on tour. You want to come and hang out with me and do tattoos on me and the crew dudes? Because we miss you. We love you. Like come and party. Like just have a good time. And when they walk off the stage, they have a friend there telling them like, man, you did really good tonight. And they also had a friend there to listen when they felt like they didn't do good tonight. Like tons of those, those dudes a lot of these guys are really depressed. A lot of these guys are really lonely. Like it's not this rock star life. Like they're fucking sitting there fucking missing the world the same way that everyone at home is sitting there thinking that the world is doing something they're not doing too. You know what I mean? Like everyone feels that way, no matter what. They walk on a stage for an hour of their time and they have everyone singing their songs, but they're not hanging out with those people. They're not, they got a mob of people wanting autographs, but there's no connection to those people.
Well, it's like we talked about earlier, the similarities of tattooing and music. They'll come off from doing a massive show and like someone in the crowd, the crowd might feel like it was the best show they've ever played, but they might walk off thinking it was the worst show they've ever played and they hated every minute of it. And tattooing, you can kind of you can relate to that. You do a tattoo or I'll do a tattoo that like when I finished it I'm like, yeah, that's fucking sick, I'm stoked with that. Then 10 minutes later I'm like, fuck, I hate that, like I wish I'd done that, I wish I'd done this.
Yeah, you start looking at your pictures when you go back into your office or whatever. Oh man. No,
constantly second guessing yourself and like and really homing in on like really minute things,
For sure. And I think the biggest reality I've gotten over the years is nothing is going to be perfect. Like, like no matter how hard I try, the things that I love the most and I think are the most perfect things I've ever made, the rest of the world doesn't care about. The rest of the world, I get more likes on the stupid shit, picture of my food than something that I put 3 weeks of work into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that the strive is perfection for me anymore. I think it's trying to always do my best and do something the best of my ability, but also living in the moment and realizing that, I think that, like being in the moment, things should have feeling. You should enjoy the experience as well. I think that tattoo should reflect that experience that you're enjoying together. Just the same as when you're looking at the good life. I still think about that. The experience that of all around that everything that tattoo gives me, and gets him and everyone else who gets to see that tattoo, it's hard to believe that any other, that tattoo, I don't know, anything is going to be anything you make will be perfect. Anything that I make will be perfect, For me, it's I just want to always do my best, and I'm just always just make sure the person that I'm with and doing that for is like loves it. Like it's the thing that I can make for them.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm walking on I'm going to walk out the door tomorrow morning on like clouds after this. Like I'm pumped. I'm good. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hit the week head on.
Thank you. That means a lot.
So I mean, you've had a lot of like awesome experiences. Have you had any bad experiences? What's the worst experience you've had?
Well, I already told you about me puking on Travi. That was a weird one.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one. Also Fall Out Boy. Me and Joe, the guitar player on Fall Out Boy, big guy, poofy hair, Joe Truman, amazing dude. Spent a long time, 10 years with him. Really, every U.S. tour they did, I was out with those dudes. I would always like stay with him in his room because I would go as his guest, so he'd get big suite. Oh, you got this room, blah, blah. Anyways, we were tattooing him one day, and it was like this 2-level fucking suite hotel room. And we were downstairs, and we were like, hear someone knocking on the door. He's like, go get a door, we can see who it is or whatever. Okay, cool, fuck yeah, stop tattooing, run upstairs, and just fucking not thinking. I didn't look through the peephole. I was like, oh, it's probably one of the homies down the hall. They always come by and stop and say hi and see what we're doing. So I opened the door real quick, and this fucking lady comes running in. Fucking barges in the fucking room, She's, what the fuck? Like, whoa. She just, like, comes in, but runs straight in the bathroom door, like, immediately, and just locks the door. And I'm like, Joe, there's a lady in your bathroom. And Joe's like, not like, Joe's super cool, but he's a rock star. You tell him there's a lady in his bathroom, he's like freaking out. So I'm like, dude, it's not my fault, I swear, I'm sorry, fucking, I was trying to be quick, I thought it was homie down the road, so anyway, we're banging on the bathroom door like, yo, get the fuck out of the bathroom, whatever. We're calling security. This lady finally comes running out of the bathroom and just runs back out the door and runs out down the hallway. And we're like, whoa, what? That was the weirdest shit ever, And then we realize, we kind of crack open the bathroom door, and there was shit everywhere.
Oh, my God.
Shit.
I did wonder where this was going to go.
Dude, they're everywhere. It was like all over the fucking walls, all over the toilet, the fucking floor. Like, this lady just had a fucking explosion everywhere. Like, so we're, calling security, fucking manager, tour managers, all my tattoo shit set up. Joe's fucking bummed. Feeling like this is my fault for sure because I opened the fucking door, It's super weird. Fucking security ends up finding this lady in a hall closet, like 4 doors down, like in a broom closet, like curled up in a ball, not knowing where she's at, just wasted. She apparently she got drunk at the hotel bar. They ended up switching our rooms and shit, but I had to break all my tattoo shit down, reset it up. This is like at midnight, like it's like one in the morning. This is like crazy late, Fucking, still tattooed for like 2 or 3 more hours after this. But fucking, dude, it was the biggest, like, it's messy. Joe was bummed, just always check your peephole, everybody.
There's a lesson to learn here.
To learn. Check the fucking peephole.
Well, I mean, like, how did she get to that stage where she came, like, to up? Should have probably had to have, like, got in the elevator and gone up a few floors and be like, oh, this is the one I'm going to for my... She
probably thought it was her room. And then she probably came to the reality as we're banging on this door yelling at her, like, get the fuck out of our bathroom, and the security, and then at this point just being so embarrassed, and then shit everywhere, and then, I don't know.
And then it's like...
I saw her run out, that's all I know.
how do I get out of this situation?
That's probably the craziest one, dude. That was wild.
Oh dear, gross. That's so gross. So I mean, have you got any plans? Any more plans for touring or any of that kind of thing?
Not a whole lot with tattooing on the road right now. All the travel dates I have coming up are very much just related to family. Like next weekend, my wife and I were traveling from Florida up to Pennsylvania to play at this music conference that we got picked up for. So it's a weekend of playing music to, music execs and
cool
things like that. And then we're playing then we got hired to play at a strip club the next night. And then we're playing
nice.
in North Carolina. So, dude, like I said, we're all about this experience, man. We're playing at this music conference, which we're really excited about. Who knows the opportunities that will come. And then the strip club we said yes to because my wife's fucking hot and the music's fitting for her, and they're paying us well, and we've never played a strip club, so we thought that would be fucking awesome. And,
I mean, I think
I don't know anyone who's played a strip club.
I think strip club in the States are probably a bit different to they are in the UK.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't think I'd willingly go into a strip club in the UK.
Well, this is really it looks like a nice one. So it has a stage, sound guy, lights, and all this stuff. So it seems like it's pretty legit. So.
Yeah, it's probably a bit more legit than most ones this side of the pond.
And then we're playing at a brewery the next night, so which is cool too. So so a good weekend on the road. I am going to take my tattoo stuff up and do a tattoo in a hotel or two along the route on some people I've already worked on. So kind of little tattoo weekend, play some music weekend, spend time with my best bud and my wife, and just see where this new adventure goes. I think that's. I think it would be cool to see the future maybe open up opportunities to where we're potentially opening up on some tours, or maybe doing something like that in the future to where I could still go and tattoo and play music and still live a fun life, and maybe kind of open up some of those chapters again. Do
you think, would that be a sort of potentially use some of those contacts you've made over the years to...
a lot of those people follow me on Instagram still. It's not something I'm going to sit there and try to milk some old connections and relationships. I think that's abusing something. I don't want to do anything like that to my career and to the people that I hold very, very dear to have shared that time with. I don't want them to think negative about any tattoos I gave them or ask for any favors in any way ever from anyone. I want to earn it. I believe in my life very much, and I want to just enjoy the ride. And if the music takes off and people believe in what we're making, and then that day will come, and maybe we'll get to, you have a manager or something that I've had a relationship with in the past, and maybe I'll get on their radar because they saw what we were doing and they wanted to be a part of it. But I'm not the type of person that's going to go and try to milk something or take that route. You know what I mean? To me, that's like going on a fucking a reality tattoo show or something. You know what I mean? Like that ain't for me. And I want to enjoy the ride, man. I think being a small band and playing some small shows, and I think that this step is just as important as being as still in this Madison Square Garden in 10 years. You know what I mean? I think every bit of the ride, and I think that this is going to be just as fun, if not more fun, than that would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, those are the experiences that sort of galvanize friendships, and
absolutely.
There's once you get to that massive scale, then it's difficult to make those genuine connections.
Absolutely, and building friendships. I think that even the music is the same as the tattooing, and any art is that you go and you put your art out there to people, and the same with tattoos. You're building. People who see your tattoos on the clients you tattooed, and so your tattoos are walking around in life. And then every person who saw that thing that you made, now then in return says, I want to also get something that you made put on. So your work is out there speaking for itself. Same as music, you put your music out there, then people saw you play, and then they want to come see you again. One of their friends saw you play, and they want to come see you again, or they heard one of your songs on the radio or whatever platform you listen to, and they want to come see you and experience that with you. It's building relationships in a small band. After the club, I can't wait to hang out and talk to people that come watch us play.
Yeah.
And the same as I look forward to hanging out with the people I tattoo. It's part of the ride, man. I love it. It don't matter about the money. I sit here in my shop and make good money. I don't. It's. It's odd, isn't it? I mean, I've quite a few of my customers they're now my friends. Yeah. Yeah, right.
It's cool. Yeah, that's fucking cool. And it's weird, but it's cool.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I have people that I started out tattooing, or that are now covered with my tattoos, that I still charge fully for. But I thought, dude, I'll go on vacations with them. I'll go on trips. We're gonna make it together for a week and come home and tattoo him 2 weeks later. I still charge full price to tattoo him.
I see. I feel bad. I feel bad doing that.
Still booked up 4 or 5 months, man. You still got your appointment. You gotta have to wait for, bro. Like, I'm sorry. And they know it. They know that. And they're, I'm lucky to call them friends, just the same as they feel lucky to call me friends, and I still hire them to do whatever job they do. And
that's it. Yeah, I think it's it kind of goes, for me. It goes back to that, like being a kid in my local DIY scene of, you support your friends, so you buy they buy their shirts, you do this, you do that, and I think that's carried on for me, to now being an adult, where like, if my friends are, I'll buy their art, I'll buy their their records, I'll buy their t-shirts,
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I think that's probably a good place to stop. I mean, how can where can people find you on the internet?
Well, it all goes back to the website, craigbeasley.com. Everything else you love, social media wise, Instagram, Facebook, Craig Beasley, the art of Craig Beasley, but craigbeasley.com, the real deal website.
Sick. Well, yeah, awesome. I'm going to press stop recording, and then we're going to pretend like we're going to that's it, we're going. I'm going to say bye, but we're going to keep talking. Awesome. So bye.
Yeah, we'll see you later.